Hey guys, welcome to the channel. I'm Honda Pro Mehmet, and today we're going to go over the basic set of tools you need to start working on your project or simply fixing your car. Let's get started. So over here, we have your basic toolbox. One of these things costs maybe 30-40 bucks. These things are real cheap. If you're working on Japanese cars, I just want to make a quick note before we start this video that they all the sizes are in metric. Standard's not useful, especially on late model cars. There's no standard bolts in there. So all the units of measurement for your tools should be in metric when you're working on vehicles. And with that, let's get started. Another thing is that this is optimized for Japanese and Honda vehicles. If you were working on German vehicles, it would be a different setup. So hopefully you have a Japanese car. So this setup here has been optimized for Hondas. This is everything I need to work on a Honda. So if I'm working on someone's car, maybe in their driveway or on the side of the road, this would be my perfect set to go with. So let's start. I'm gonna start with this. This is a magnetic tray. It's magnetic, so this holds bolts and anything like that. It's just very useful to keep when you're taking things apart. You put the bolts. You don't have to worry about losing bolts. Another thing, speaking about magnets, is we have this pickup tool. This is a magnetic pickup tool. It works really well if you drop something in the engine bay and you can't get to it. It's a very good tool to have. So I'll start with the top row. The top row here, we got ratchets. We got different kinds of ratchets. We got ones with swivel heads. These are very useful to get the tight areas. These longer handled ones are great. They give you the leverage to break harder bolts loose. This also has a flex head on it. I really like the flex heads. This is an expensive ratchet. This is a snap-on ratchet, and the difference between these and the cheaper ratchets is the tooth count. If you can hear that, this has a very fine tooth count on it, which when you're working on a tight space, that comes in really handy. Aside from ratchets, you want to pick up a bunch of extensions. These extensions, I mean, you're gonna need them. You got a basic spark plug tools in order to take spark plugs out. These are the longer sockets, as opposed to like the shorter sockets. This thing here, this is a Hansen tray. And this makes it really easy so that you're not digging through your whole box looking for a socket. This keeps all your sockets organized and lined up for you. This is your typical standard 3/8 size, which refers to the drive size sockets, all in metric, 10 through 19 millimeter. When it comes to Honda vehicles, 10, 12, 14, 17, and very occasionally a 19 millimeter. That's really the only sockets you need to take most of the Honda Civics and things apart. So we got that. Over here, I got this is an axle nut tool. It's a 32 millimeter. The newer Hondas do use a 36, and on occasion I do see 34s. This is a 32 millimeter. This works on all 90 Civics, well, 90s Hondas in general. This takes those apart. I got random other sockets here. This is for lug nuts on Hondas. They use 19 millimeter lug nuts. We got a battery cleaner tool, which comes in with a socket stuck in there. This is the clean battery terminals, and this is the battery posts. Well, battery post, battery terminals. There we go. A ruler. Sometimes you got to measure slight things. We do have a ruler in here. When you're under your car, I highly recommend you always use safety goggles because the rust and debris and everything gets in your eyes. I actually really recommend that. I do have a multimeter that I do use on occasion at the side of the road or if I'm going somewhere for electrical diagnostics. So that about takes care of the top. I mean, you want to have your basic set of sockets, ratchets, extensions, axle nut socket, and like a lug nut socket. That's like the basics as far as sockets and ratchets goes. Ratchets, I try to get as many as you can. I got different lengths. This is 1/2-inch drive. This is 3/8 drive. I got flex handle, long handle. You really want to have your assortment of sockets. Moving along, let's look at the top drawer. Over here, you want to have a basic set of screwdrivers. Phillips and, well, flathead and Phillips. Well, this is another flathead. Here's your Phillips. You want to have your basic set of Phillips and flatheads. You know, it's pretty straightforward. I mean, these are Phillips and flathead, not so much, but Phillips bolts are everywhere, so you definitely want to have screwdrivers. I got some smaller picks in here when you got to get smaller things out. Sometimes on hoses, I use these. Pliers. You want to get yourself a good set of pliers. The most used plier for me is probably between this and a needle nose. These needle nose pliers and your dikes, your cutters, these are going to be your two most used pliers. This one, hose clamps, I mean, just everything. I use this thing on everything, and I do a lot of cutting too. So these are going to be the two most important pliers, but I would recommend picking up some of these too. These do come in every now and then. The one plier that I am missing in this set is is like your basic channel lock pliers, which I have in my other boxes, not in this tool set. I guess I don't really need it too often. These things are very useful. These are for clips. Hondas, they like to use a lot of clips, so this, you just get under the clip and pop them off. I have a different variety of these here. These, you know, the small ones, big ones. These come in very handy. I would highly recommend these if you're dealing with clips, because I know a lot of people try to flathead them off and you end up breaking them. This, you just pop them out, no problem. Another important plier is this guy. This is for doing oil changes. You just put this on the oil filter and you spin it off. You know, I know a lot of people, they stick screwdrivers to oil filters and they do a bunch of ghetto things to get them off. I think this has always worked for me. This is the best way to do it. I do have another small tool which is not in here, which I use on occasion when you need it, but for the most part, this should do most of your Honda filters. Oil filters on almost a lot of cars, not just Hondas. I mean, this is a pretty well used tool for me. Alright, so let's move on. So you got your sockets, pliers. Down here you got your these are Torx, okay? These are like a little star shaped. Honda does use these on like the steering wheel airbags and other bolts throughout the car. So I do recommend picking up a set of these. These are actually really cheap. They make these in T-handle, like kind of like a screwdriver, but I prefer the socket ones. These are the best. Speaking about Torx, also hex. There's a lot of hex bolts, especially when you're dealing with aftermarket parts when you're installing them. They love giving you hex, so definitely have to keep a set of hexes around. These are all generally cheap. Files, every now and then you might have to file a hole bigger, or you know, these are just general purpose. I mean, I use files all the time for random things. This guy, this is a must-have when you're dealing with ball joints. Even once you take the nut off the ball joint and you're trying to break that ball joint loose, you got to hammer on the thing the whole. This makes it literally, I take this, I put it under the ball joint, 2 hits, and it breaks it loose. You just have to watch out not to damage the ball joint boots with this. But this is a highly useful tool. I absolutely recommend this. The file drawer in here is just wrenches. Wrenches and this is a basic set of for tire plugs. You know, someone gets a flat tire, or you gotta stick a plug in there real quick. I would recommend this. I mean, if you know how to use this, I mean, it's really simple to do a tire plug. It looks like this is bent. It's been used extensively, somewhat. Also, rubber cement when you're doing tire plugs. So I would recommend this just to keep in the back of your car or truck in case you ever get a nail or something in your tire. But besides that, a basic set of wrenches. I like these really long ones. These are all metric. You know, the longer they are, the more grip and leverage you can get on whatever fastener you're trying to take off. So this is a basic set of hand tools that you need to get started working on a car, whether you're doing a project or you're just fixing your car. This is the absolute minimum I would recommend. This is a lot better than buying one of those complete plastic case sets, because those are incomplete. They're missing certain sockets and certain things, and the wrenches are generally cheap on those. So I would just buy the set of wrenches, buy the sockets, and piece together your own kit with a nice box. Alright, so one more thing I want to add is a bucket. If you're dealing with a small little handheld toolbox like that metal one I just showed you, on the side, you want to have a bucket. In this bucket, you can fit your longer items like your pry bars, hammers, all the things that don't fit in a little black box or whatever little toolbox or hanging box. You know, some of these things are just too long to fit in there. So I would recommend a bucket. This is just a regular bucket. It has like a little bucket pal thing around it, zip ties, brushes, just random things that brake compressor, you know, brake piston compressor tools, random screwdrivers. It's just something to carry along, so this way you pick your toolbox up with one hand, you grab the bucket with the other hand, and you got your whole tool set going around with you. This is a bonus content. I recommend saving every bolt that you take off your vehicle or whatever you're working on. Nothing sucks worse than being in the middle of a project and needing a specific bolt and having to run to the hardware store. I keep mine in buckets. I got other organizers set up with my other bolts. I recommend saving every bolt, nut, every little piece off your car, and just keeping it in a bucket somewhere. This way, whenever you need something, you have it. So that about sums it up. You can get a cheap box, a bucket, and most of these tools are from Harbor Freight. These aren't any nice tools that I really go on the road with, or that I use to when I'm in a bind. You're looking at maybe a few $100 here, not even. This is very cheap tools. You don't need to get expensive tools or very high quality tools when you're starting out, especially if you're not a professional. I've met a lot of people that they could have done a certain job, but then they make excuses that they couldn't do it because they didn't have the proper tools to do it. I could do a whole lot with this. There's a few other tools that I would add if I was gonna build a car or something from ground up, but you can basically do almost anything with these basic set of tools here. That about sums it up for this video. I mean, I've been buying tools my whole life. This is just a basic set that I'd recommend for any beginner getting into cars or building a project or fixing or whatever situation it is that you're in. Stay tuned to the channel. We're filming every day. We got videos coming out weekly. If this video helped it out, please like and subscribe to my channel. And I'm going to see you guys next time.